If I was playing with someone and they had a song and the chords went like this, and I wanted to add something to that where I was playing the same chords, different voicings of them, maybe higher up on the neck, and keep them kind of tight and close together, I might play this. What I'm doing is I'm taking the chords and finding the closest possible voicing of each chord on these 3 strings here. And I wouldn't have to take any time to think about that at all because I've studied my triad inversions and the voice leading of how they connect together along different string sets. And in this lesson, I'm going to teach you a beautiful etude for how to connect together triad voicings and connect them with voice leading in a way that sounds very musical. And that's going to descend down the fretboard, and it covers every single inversion shape and every chord in the key that we're going to go through. And this is part 2 of this same type of exercise. I did a video last week on the same thing, but ascending. I'll put a link to that in the description. They're totally independent from each other. You can do just one or the other, so you don't need to watch that, but I recommend knowing how to do both. Let's dive into what we need to understand first before doing this exercise, which is just a little bit of theory understanding. What we need to know to be able to do this etude is just a few things. We need to know the structure of the major scale, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 notes, and then it goes back to 1, and there's a half step between 3 and 4 and 7 and 1. I said this in my last video too, so if you watch both, good, you're getting some review. Make sure you know that really well. The second thing is that we need to know how to play that structure along the 3 strings that we're going to play our triad inversion voicings through. So we need to be able to play from here, fret 1, string 2, which is C, and we're going to call that 1 because we're going to do this in the key of C, and we need to be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, go as high as you want, as high as you can or not, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 1. You need to be able to do that on string 3 and 4 as well for this exercise because those are the strings we're going to be using. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 6, 5. All you have to think of is where those half steps are. 3, 4, half step. 7 and 1, half step. Everything else is a whole step. Off of the 4th string, this is 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back down. I didn't say, but that 3rd string starts as number 5, and you just go from there, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 1. That's the second thing you need to know. The third thing that you don't need to know to do this exercise, but I really recommend it so you can know what chord you're actually playing, which is part of the benefit of this. You're going to learn all these inversion shapes. You want to know what chords you're playing. To do that, you have to know the letter names along that same scale along those 3 strings. It's going to be so easy though, because once you can play that structure like that, you just add letters to them through the alphabet. This first one we called 1, well this is C, great. You just follow the same path and use the letters of the alphabet, C, D, E, F, G, and then go back to A after G, of course, A, B, C, D, etc. Work on doing it backwards as well. That note is G, so it's G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So be able to do that as well. Then you'll be able to identify the actual chords you're playing when you do this exercise. Though you don't have to, but if you don't do that, then you won't know how to find those voicings when you're actually in a musical situation like I talked about at the beginning. The last thing that's really helpful to know that's really extra, but to know the quality of the chords through a key. We have those numbers in the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each one of those notes has a chord that's built off of it, and we call those chords the 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, and 7 chord, and each of those has a different quality, meaning major, minor, diminished, those are qualities. To really have it memorized what the chord qualities are through a key is one of the most beneficial theory things you could ever do. It's just the basis of so much harmonic information. There's a few ways to go about it. Here's a way, instead of just going through the numbers, you could say 1, 4, and 5 are major. 1, 4, 5. So a lot of progressions. This progression I played here is just using 1, 4, and 5. Those are the 3 major chords. 7 is diminished. It's the odd one out. The rest are minor. You can think of it that way. 1, 4, 5 major, 7 is diminished, the rest are minor, which leaves 2, 3, and 6 to be minor. But this is a great thing to just review in your head when you're driving to the dentist or taking a walk or whatever. You don't have to have the guitar in your hand to really figure that out and know that. And that's going to be helpful so we can think of how this etude is moving these chords through the key. Now we can get into playing the etude, and it's going to be really cool. This is so cool. I'm excited to show you this. This chord shape we're going to start with is E minor. If you did the ascending version of this exercise from my previous video, we also started on E minor down here, but we're starting on E minor up here. Okay, now here's how it's gonna work. It's just simple. At first, you don't even have to think of the chord names or the roots letter names. You do have to follow the structure of the C major scale. So we're only moving along notes that fit in that C major scale that we practiced. But we're gonna move the bottom string, I'm talking out of these three strings, of course, the lowest note down, okay? Then we're gonna move the middle note down. Then we're gonna move the top note down. And then we repeat. We move the bottom note down. Then we move the middle note down. Then the top note down and repeat. Then you move the bottom note down and then the middle note down and then the top note down. And that's how you get through every single inversion shape, every single chord type through the whole key along the whole fretboard on those three strings, all with voice leading, all with moving just the closest, the nearest possible note to the nearest possible note to find the next chord. Now, if you want to identify what the chord is, which I recommend, and you can add that in later if you want to just get the mechanics of it down first, that's great. The note that you need to move is the root. So we start on E minor, there's the root, this is E minor, then you move that down, okay? You can just think, okay, we moved the bottom note down, so we got to move the middle note down. Oh, that means the middle note is the root. Let's move the root down. So you move the root down. Okay. Now we need to move down the top note of this chord. That means that top note is the root. Okay, that's B. This is B diminished. Okay, move it down. Now we got to move the bottom note down. That means this is the root. This is D minor. Move it down. Now you got to move the middle note down. This note here, this middle note is F. This is F major, the chord. Move it down. Now you got to move the top note down. A lot more of a mouthful to walk through it this way, but okay, whatever note this top note is, that is the root of the chord. It's A. This is A minor. Move it down. Okay, now you got to move the bottom note down. This is C major. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, beautiful exercise. And what's happening here is that every time we move one of those notes down to the closest possible place it can move within the scale structure of C major that we mapped out for ourselves, we are moving through the chords of the key up a third. When we're here on C major, and then we move that root down a half step to the closest possible note in the scale structure, we're moving up to E minor. I say up to because it's just one chord away. You skip D minor, you go to E minor. So we're moving up a third, and then you just go up a third again every time you move. So from E minor, when this middle note moves down, you have G major. You went up another third, so you're going up a third. You're moving a note down, and the chords are going up a third. It's the opposite of what we did for our ascending version of this exercise, which works the same way, just going up the fretboard. Now we'll just play the whole thing for you uninterrupted so you can hear how it flows down the neck, and then you can work on it for yourself. At the end, after I landed on the E minor, which is not the last chord, you could go down one more to G major, but I went up a half step here to G7 just to create a functional harmony style resolution to C major and to end it off. So you can add that to it if you like. If you want to study some more fretboard chord theory and chords through keys and chord voicings, check out my chord chart. It's called Chords with Color, and it shows chords through, just like we talked about, 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, major version and minor version through 5 different keys. And it's all open string chords, this chart, but it shows beautiful alternative options for all of the chords through 5 different keys. That these options use color tones, which are chord extensions, and they are different chords than what are typical, but they can perfectly replace the typical chords anytime you're using them. So it's a resource that's valuable for a lot of different types of study or just using for being creative with. So check that out if you're interested. You can get it for free with the link in the top of the description, or you can go to soundguitarlessons.com/chordswithcolor. Let me know how it goes working on the Etude, working on your triad inversions and the voice leading. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I'm Jared Borkowski. I post a lesson video every week. Thanks so much for being here and for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Take care and happy practicing.